Good morning, dear students. Welcome to the third session of the chapter The Voter, written by Chinua Achebe. So, in the previous sessions, we have seen two characters, Rufus Okeke and Marcus Ibe. Rufus Okeke was the most trusted campaign boy of Marcus Ibe's team. Marcus Ibe was one of the leaders of People's Alliance Party, and he was the Minister of Culture. He belonged to the village Mofia, and he was considered to be one of the most hardworking men of the village. People had high regard for him, but even then they could understand that after entering politics, Marcus Ibe had amassed wealth and he has become filthy rich. So another election was going to be held, and they decided that they are not going to give their votes for free to Marcus. So there are many campaign boys who work for Marcus Ibe, and Ruf was one among them. And in the next session we have seen Rufus Okeke trying to speak to the village elders. They had gathered in the house of Ogbufi Izenwa, one of the prominent members of the clan. And elders told Ruf very clearly, our votes are for Marcus, there is no doubt about it. But this time he has to consider us. Last time when he contested in the election, he was a poor man. We did not ask for anything. We gave our votes for free. But this time, Marcus Ibe is very rich and he has to consider us. So, there was some sort of argument going on between Rufus Okeke and the village elders. They were not happy with the 2 shillings that Rufus Okeke had given them, and finally Ruf felt that they should be given some sort of consideration. Again, they were demanding, not begging. And it's very important to have the votes of the village elders because they have the power to influence the rest of the villagers as well. So Rufus, during this whispering campaign held at night, he gave each one of the elders 4 shillings. So this is where we have stopped in the previous session. So today let us see what happens next. Campaigning was going on. Marcus Ibe did campaigning during daytime. He met people, he spoke to them, he convinced them, all those things happened. And at night, his honest campaign boys, they did the work. They went from house to house, they spoke to the people, and they were in fact bribing the voters to cast their votes for Marcus Ibe. So now let us just move on to the next paragraph. The enemy Ruf had referred to was the Progressive Organization Party, which had been formed by the tribes down the coast to save themselves, as the founders of the party proclaimed, from total political, cultural, social and religious annihilation. Now, annihilation means destruction. So there was a new party that has come into existence recently. Earlier, during the first election, there was only one party, and that was People's Alliance Party, to which our Marcus Ibe belonged. And now another party has been formed, and that is People's Organization Party. And this party has been formed by the members of certain tribes on the coastal area. So when they formed the party, they said, why are we having a new party? Why have we formed this party? Because the ruling party, PAP, People's Alliance Party, is completely destroying the culture and the social setup of our country. So against this political, cultural, social and religious, in all these ways our country is being destroyed. So we want to protect our countries, we want to protect our tribes, we want to protect the people, for which we have launched a new party, they said, or this was their claim. So in order to save their country from being destroyed completely by PAP, they had started a new party. Although it was clear the party had no chance here, it had plunged with typical foolishness into a straight fight with PAP, providing cars and loudspeakers to a few local rascals and thugs to go around and make a lot of noise. Now what has POP done? See, it's a newly launched party. Definitely they don't have any chance to win this election. They also knew that well. Even then, they have straight away plunged into this situation. Plunging means, going in deeply. They have got themselves involved in these elections. They have contestants in almost all the, villages. So they have started involving themselves in the elections. Now, how do they do? Everybody said their move was a foolish one. But how did they do? By giving the local rascals and thugs. Thug is no one but a criminal. So they have chosen a few rascals, a few men without job in the village who would be loitering around. So such criminals or those with some criminal background had been chosen. And they have been given cars. See, just to think about the situation of Umuofia. It's really in a backward state. And think about Roof, who was earlier working as a bicycle repairer's apprentice. So cars were very rare, but POP had given cars to these local rascals and thugs to move around. And not just cars, but also loudspeakers. Now, what's the function of a loudspeaker? It can announce the names loudly, and when you announce the names, people would be familiar with your party name, people would be familiar with the name of the contestant. So they had been going around in cars and using loudspeakers. They were announcing why the party had been formed, who are the leaders, what do they intend to do after they win the election. They had been making all these announcements and make a lot of noise. So what was the ultimate intention? It was very much sure that they will not win the election. Then why did they do this? They were just making a lot of noise. When you make a lot of noise, people will make a note of you. They wanted that. They wanted the people to notice them. And they wanted the names of the party and its contestants to be imprinted in the minds of people. So they were just making a lot of noise, and they knew very well they were not going to win. Even then, their presence was felt in the village. No one knew for certain how much money POP had let loose in Umuofia, but it is said to be very considerable. And nobody knew. They had been using a lot of money. They had been spending a lot of money for these elections. And just in Umuofia, a lot of money had been spent. Nobody knew the real amount that they had spent. But they knew one thing, they had spent a lot of money to hire loudspeakers and to give cars to all these people. Definitely you need to spend a lot of money. So they were spending a lot in Umuofia. The local campaigners would end up very rich, no doubt. And people said, who will finally be the benefactors of this? The money has been given by the party. Definitely there will be a contestant in the village. And the local campaigners are going to be rich because they are the ones who receive the money for doing this campaign. So people believed that campaigners would benefit out of it, nobody else. Up to last night, everything had been moving according to plan, as Roof would have put it. So now in the next paragraph, we are going to see another incident that happened in Umuofia. So Roof was the most trusted campaign boy of our Marcus IB, and he had certain plans like morning to whom to meet, and when he conducted whispering campaigns, secret campaigns at night, whom to meet and how much should be offered. He had a plan and everything was moving according to the plan he had made. Then he received a strange visit from the leader of the POP campaign team. And out of the track, something happened one night. He got a visitor. And that too, a strange visitor. Who visited him? The leader of the POP campaign team. See, you understand, POP had got its own campaign team and most of them were local rascals. And the leader of the team visited Roof. Although he and Roof were well known to each other and might even be called friends, his visit was cold and businesslike. No words were wasted. Now, what about this man? Did Roof know him? Yes, Roof knew him. Roof was very much familiar with the leader of the POP team. And they could even be called friends because they meet at times, they have spoken to each other. This leader who visited him at night, he was a kind of acquaintance to Roof. But the visit was cold and businesslike. Businesslike means so formal. There was no friendliness involved when this man visited Roof. And cold means lack of emotions. There was no emotion. See, when you meet your friend, how do you react? You just greet your friend with hi, hello, and you may give a hug or shake hands, and all those things would be there. But here there was no emotions, and the man did not show that he already knew Roof. So a cold and a formal visit was given by this man. And no words were wasted. It indicates that there was no extra words spoken. Whatever was required, that much was spoken. There was no extra words. When you meet friends, you speak a lot. Here, nothing happened like that. He placed 5 pounds on the floor before Roof and said, "We want your vote." And what did the man do? He came in and then straight away, without speaking anything, he just took a 5-pound note. Remember, Roof had distributed just 4 shillings to each of the village elders. And 12 shillings is equal to 1 pound. So a 5-pound note, a huge sum as far as Roof is concerned, as far as any villager is concerned. This 5-pound note was taken and he kept it on the floor. And then what did he do? He said, "We want your vote. I have come here to buy your vote." Very clear. Roof got up from his chair, went to the outside door, closed it carefully and returned to his chair. The brief exercise gave him enough time to weigh the proposition. Now, what is the proposition? What did the man propose? The man, the leader of the POP team, visited Roof and straight away told him, by keeping a 5-pound note on the floor, "I want your vote. We want your vote. Your vote should be in my candidate's favor." This is what he said. And what did Roof do? Immediately he noticed that the door was open. He went to the door. He got up from the chair. He went to the door. He closed the door and then he came back. And just this time was enough for Roof to weigh the proposition. Weighing is he had to see, is there any benefit for me out of this? Can I accept this 5-pound note offered by this man? I am the leader of Marcus' team and the opposition party's leader has come to meet me to buy my vote. Can I do that? Is it really beneficial for me? So he wanted to think about it, and this time, this brief exercise refers to the walk that he had to the door and then coming back from there. This gave him some time to think about this matter. As he spoke, his eyes never left the red notes on the floor. He seemed to be mesmerized by the picture of the cocoa farmer harvesting his crops. And then, as he started speaking to the candidate, his eyes were straight on the red notes. The note was red in color. And what was there on the note? There was the picture of a cocoa farmer harvesting his crops. Now, cocoa is very, very important to the economy of Nigeria. And Nigeria is the 3rd largest exporter of cocoa. You know, cocoa is highly prized, and when you eat chocolates, you just remember that cocoa is a major ingredient in that. Without cocoa, there is no chocolate at all. So, there was a picture of a cocoa farmer harvesting his crops. And what does harvesting symbolize? Harvesting symbolizes abundance and money. When you sell your crops, you get money. Soon after the harvest, money would come in. So, the picture of the cocoa farmer harvesting his crops printed on the red notes kept on the floor by the leader of the POP campaigning team, you know, that really mesmerized Ruth. Mesmerized means, you know, capturing one's attention as if by magic. Ruth could not take his eyes off the note. He was looking at the notes as he spoke. You know, I work for Marcus, he said feebly. It'll be very bad. And then he said, you know, why do you approach me? Because I am the leader of Marcus IB's team, and it'll not be good. And he had to stop there because immediately the other man spoke. Marcus will not be there when you put in your paper. We have plenty of work to do tonight. Are you taking this or not? So the other man did not have time for speeches. What did he say? See, when you go to cast your vote is cast in secret. No one will be there to see. Marcus will not know in whose favor your vote has gone. And I don't have time for discussion. Do you want this note or not? You have to tell me immediately. And we have plenty of work. There are many people to meet today. So if you want, you take it. It will not be heard outside this room? Asked Ruth. So Ruth asked him a question. Are you sure that you will not speak this outside the room? See, I have closed the door. Now whatever happens is between us. And will you let this news out? It will be so bad. So are you sure that you will not speak about this to anybody else? We are after votes, not gossip. All right, said Ruth in English. So now the man said, see, our purpose is not gossip. We have come here to ask for your vote. If you are ready to give it to us, fine, we will accept it. We won't be gossiping about it. We won't have any other talk outside. And immediately Ruth said in English, all right, no problem. The man nudged his companion and he brought forward an object covered with a red cloth and proceeded to remove the cover. So now nudging means, you know, pushing someone with your elbow. Pushing somebody with an elbow to get attention, that is nudging. The man had an assistant standing behind him. He just nudged at him. The companion brought forward an object and it was covered with a red cloth. And he removed the cover, or he was about to remove the cover. It was a fearsome little affair contained in a clay pot with feathers stuck in it. And what was that object? It was inside a clay pot. So there was a clay pot and some object was inside the clay pot and feathers were stuck onto the clay pot. So he brought forward such an object, removed the red cloth that was covering it, and it's described as a fearsome little affair. We'll see why it is fearsome. The moment you look at the clay pot, you will feel fear gripping you. The E comes from Mbanta. You know what that means? Swear that you will vote for Maduka. If you fail to do so, this E, take note. And now this object inside the clay pot was brought forward, and how does he name the object? This is the E. Now E is supposed to be an evil deity from Mbanta. And the evil deity is associated with a dead spirit also. So this clay pot, the object in the clay pot, suggested that there is an evil object associated with it, and again it's an integral part of Igbo mythology. And if you bring this object, it is associated with a dead spirit, and if you make a promise on E and if you break it, E will haunt you through the rest of your life. That is what Nigerians or the people of Igbo clan believed. So the E was brought forward, and now what did he say? This is from Mbanda. Mbanda is very famous for these kind of things, these kind of evil deities. And now you have to swear, you have to promise that your vote is for Maduka. You are taking the £5 note that I am giving, and your vote should be only for Maduka. So who is the opponent of Marcus IB? It is Maduka. Now if you don't vote, what will happen? The E take note. The E, this evil deity, will take your note away from you, and it will bring you all sorts of ill luck, he said. Roof's heart nearly flew out when he saw the E. Indeed, he knew the fame of Mbanta in these things. So the moment he saw the E, fear gripped him, and his heart almost flew out. Flew out means stop working for a while. Almost, he just could not believe that he would have to promise on the E. And he knew very well Mbanta and the E from Mbanta, it was so powerful, they believed. But he was a man of quick decision. What would a single vote cast in secret for Maduka take away from Marcus certain victory? Nothing. And then, see, earlier when Roof had decided to accept the note, he might have thought that, okay, I'll accept the note now. Later I can think about voting in favor of Maduka. But the moment he saw the E, he understood he doesn't have a chance. Now if he accepts the note, definitely he will have to vote for Maduka only. So now, what did he do? He was just thinking, he has to take a decision now. The E is there, the notes are there. So should he take the note and vote for Maduka after promising on the E, or just should he send this man away? That was a question in front of him. He had to make a decision. Immediately, he thought, I am going to vote in secret, and will somebody know about it? No. And just one vote that is cast in favor of Maduka will not come in the way of Marcus' victory. Marcus has got lot of supporters. So definitely my vote in favor of Maduka will not affect that. So what did he do? He decided that nothing is going to happen if I give my vote for Maduka. I'll cast my paper for Maduka. If not, this E take note. And then just he told, my vote is for Maduka, I accept the money, and he promised on the E. If my vote is not for Maduka, let this E haunt me, let this E bring all ill luck to me, he said. Thus all is the short form or the Nigerian pronunciation for that is all. That's all, the matter is simple. Said the man as he rose with his companion who had covered up the object again and was taking it back to their car. So now the leader of the POP team who had visited Rufus Okeke in his house, he rose from the chair and he went along with his companion, and they were taking the E back to the car. They covered the object again because it will not be displayed always. So a red cloth was always kept to cover it up. You know, he has no chance against Marcus, said Roof at the door. So Roof saw them off, and as he was at the door, he told, why are you going around? Because it's very much sure that there is no chance for Maduka against Marcus, because Marcus' victory is for sure. The entire village will support only Marcus. And then, why do you do all these things? It is enough that he gets a few votes now. Next time he will get more. People will hear that he gives out pounds, not shillings, and they will listen. So what is the man's reply? The man said, it's enough. Now we will get only a few votes. We know very well, because we are handing out £5 note to each and every vote. So this time definitely he'll get a few votes, that we are sure. But next time onwards, we need not go around and tell the people about Maduka, because by that time they would have already come to know about who Maduka is and how powerful he is and how powerful POP, the Progressive Organization Party, is. And they also will understand that we won't give out shillings. You have been giving shillings. We won't give out shillings, but we are distributing the money in pounds. We are giving a huge amount of money for each and every vote. They'll come to know, and people will listen to us. just to see how tricky the campaign boys are. They know how to work it out. Election morning, the great day every 5 years when the people exercise power. Weather-beaten posters on walls of houses, tree trunks and telegraph poles. So now, the day of election, the campaigning got over, people were getting ready for election, it was the morning, and it is on the day, once in 5 years, the day would come when voters become powerful just for a day. And you look around, what do you find? Weather-beaten posters. Posters have been stuck in and around, and on the telephone poles, on the electric poles, on the walls, wherever there was space outside, the posters were stuck on the walls by these parties, and they were beaten by weather. Some of the papers were torn. The few that were still whole called out their message to those who could read. Vote for the People's Alliance Party. Vote for Progressive Organization Party. Vote for PAP. Vote for POP. The posters that were torn called out as much of the message as they could. So now everywhere you can find posters, and most of them were torn. And the few posters that were not torn, they gave out the message to all those who could read. See, what does it mean? The statement means that many of the people were illiterate and they could not read. For those who could read, they gave this message. What's the message? Vote for PAP, vote for POP. So this message was displayed through the posters. As usual, Chief, the Honorable Marcus Ibe, was doing things in grand style. So you remember Marcus Ibe is described by one of the villagers as a great man doing things in a great way. So in a very grand manner, he always used to deal with the people. So today also, on the day of election also, he was like that. He had hired a high life band from Umuru and stationed it at such a distance from the voting booths as just managed to be lawful. The law will not allow any of these campaigning procedures to be held near or in and around the booth. So a little away from the polling booth, Marcus Ibe had stationed a high life band. Now, band refers to a music troupe and high life refers to a style of dance music, and it's a combination of rock and jazz. So, the music will make you dance. Even if you don't have any taste for dance, you would feel that you have to dance. So, such a high life band, a music troupe had been invited. They had been hired from Umuru. Umuru is the nearby town. From there, probably the most famous band around, and they were invited and they were outside playing the music. Many villagers danced to the music, their ballot papers held aloft before proceeding to the booths. Now, aloft means up in the air. So, people were coming to the polling booth in order to cast their vote, and as they were coming, they would listen to the music, they would stay there for a while, dance, and then they would go on. And as they were going, they were just displaying, see, today is the day when we are powerful. They just kept their ballot paper, the paper on which they cast their vote, aloft. They were holding it up in the air. And after dancing, they would move, they would cast their vote, and they would come back. Chief, the Honorable Marcus Ibe, sat in the owner's corner of his enormous green car and smiled and nodded. Now, what was Marcus Ibe doing? He cannot go inside the booth. He might have cast his vote in the morning itself. So, he was there sitting inside his car. Sitting inside his car in the owner's corner. Now, in Nigeria, it is right-hand driving. So the driver is in the right side, and owner's corner is the place at the back which is diagonally opposite to that of the driver, which means the left side of the back seat is described as the owner's corner. So this man was sitting in the owner's corner of the car, and he was just smiling. He was just watching the people going to cast their vote. One enlightened villager came up to the car, shook hands with the great man and said in advance, "Congrats! So enlightened villager here refers to a man who had recognized Marcus Ibe. So he just came and suddenly he had a thought. He came and he shook his hands with Marcus Ibe and said, "Congrats." Why congrats in advance? Because they were sure Marcus Ibe is going to win. This immediately set the pattern. Hundreds of admirers shook Marcus' hand and said, "Congrats." So now, soon after one villager shook his hands and went away, others also noticed. So they felt, okay, this is a chance that we get, because after the election, they may not be able to meet him like this. Now he is comfortably sitting in the honor's corner of the car. So they all came up to him and one by one they were shaking hands with him. So one said congrats, and most of them, when they pronounced, it became congrats. Roof and the other organizers were prancing up and down, giving last minute advice to the voters and pouring with sweat. So now Roof and other organizers were there, other campaign boys were there. They were just prancing up and down. Prancing means moving. They were moving from one place to another, trying to speak to one villager and then moving on to another villager. They were just moving here and there. And last minute advice was given to the voters on how to vote. And they were all sweating because they were doing hard work from the morning. "Do not forget," he said again to a group of illiterate women who seemed ready to burst with enthusiasm and good humor, "Our sign is the motor car." So now a group of women came and they were proceeding to the polling booth, and they were all illiterate, it was understood, but they were all in enthusiasm and they had good humor sense also. As they were going, he immediately said, "Our sign is the motor car. So how should you cast vote? You should cast your vote against the motor car. Our sign, Marcus Ibe's sign, is the motor car. Don't forget." Like the one Marcus is sitting inside. So somebody from the group, one illiterate woman said, "Yes, we know that. Like the one, our contestant is sitting inside. Marcus is sitting inside. The same figure, right? We have to remember. That's a sign, right?" She said. "Thank you, mother," said Roof. With utmost respect, he said, "Mother, thank you for that. It's the same car. Yes, no worries. It's the same car. The box with the car shone on its body is the box for you. Don't look at the other with a man's head. It is for those whose heads are not correct." And then he said, "Mother, what should you do? When you go inside, you would find two boxes. There are only two contestants. So there would be two boxes. On one box, there would be the symbol of motor car. So your vote should go inside that box. You will also find another box and there would be the sign of a man's head on it. Whose symbol is that? Whose sign is that? It is Maduka's. So Maduka's sign is a man's head and Marcus Ibe's sign is a motor car. So cast your vote, put your vote inside the box on which the picture of a motor car is pasted. And don't choose the other box. That's all for insane people, people who do not know how to think correctly." This was greeted with loud laughter. Roof cast a quick and busy-like glance towards the minister and received a smile of appreciation. So all the people laughed when Roof said that, and immediately looked at the minister because he wanted appreciation from the minister. And the minister was smiling. "Yes, Roof, you did a wonderful job." "Vote for the car," he shouted, all the veins in his neck standing out. "Vote for the car and you will ride in it." So then he shouted loudly, all the veins in his neck standing out means spoke loudly, shouted loudly. See, all of you remember, vote for the car. And when you vote for the car, you will ride in it. What does it mean? You vote for the car, development is going to come. We will live in all comforts and luxury. You will even get a chance to ride in a car. He said, he reminded them. "Or if you don't, our children will," piped the same sharp old girl. So immediately came a reply from the same woman who had told him about Marcus' car. She said, even if we don't get a chance, our children will get a chance. So she was indirectly indicating that we are not sure whether the development will come to our village immediately. Probably in future, by the time our children grow up, it may come. The band struck up a new number. Why walk when you can ride? So a new number here stands for a new song. The band, the High Life Band, started a new song, and the song's lyrics went like this: why walk when you can ride? Again indicating the progress, the development that Marcus Ibe might be bringing to the village if he gets elected. So dear students, we have seen how Rufe's loyalty was tested and how he was immediately ready to accept the £5 note offered by the leader of the POP campaigning team. He fell into the trap. Even Rufe wanted money, just as the villagers wanted money more than development. There is always a question of Rufe's loyalty. Where does it lie? So we have seen this much. In the next class, we will see what happened and how did the election end. Thank you.